10 minutes with a home edit, and I'm just about to invite Sarah from Adventuring with the Little Bees to come and be interviewed, so bear with us just for 1 minute. Still getting used to this. See if this goes a bit more smoothly than it did yesterday with Alistair, or was it Thursday? Oh, there we go.
Let me turn it round.
Nice tights.
Ah.
Hi, it's nice
Hi.
to meet you. So we've never actually met properly. And is this meeting properly? I don't know. We haven't met face to face yet, have we? So we have chatted a little bit on Instagram and Facebook and so on. But Sarah's one of our ambassadors for Twinkl, and we're going to jump fairly straight into it because we don't want to take up too much of your time, but we really just want to get to know as many home educators as possible and see the differences and the similarities and just get to know one another. My favorite thing about Sarah's Instagram is the video you did where your kids had paint like all over the kitchen. Now, so I felt very reassured because we've got pen marks all up from my very creative 3-year-old. So yeah, you share quite honestly what's happening in your world, don't you?
I do, yeah. And that's probably, I don't want to say like the worst thing that's happened recently, but that was like, because I don't consider it like, oh no, but yeah, that was pretty bad.
Yeah,
And they had
it was.
we had literally just like, we don't really like, I'm not that organized to be honest, but that was one of the first times I'd ever got myself organized, and I'd actually painted that room. And yeah, so they painted over everything that I painted, and so now I've repainted over it like 3 times with white, and it's just, it's a bit grey, but yeah.
I was glad you shared things like that because it does make me feel reassured, but I was glad it wasn't my kitchen. So,
Yeah.
Right, I'm going old school today because one of my kids has lost the timer. So I'm going to flip this over. Hopefully we'll notice at the back, but I'm going to flip it over and start asking the questions. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about who you are, where you are, and who you home educate.
Yeah, so I'm obviously Sarah, and I'm mum to 3 boys. We're down in the southwest, so we're down in Somerset. Um, my oldest should be like, I find it really odd because I still feel like they're quite young, but they should be like, he should be in school, so should have been in school for 2 years, so he should be year one. Um, my middle boy is 3, so he's coming up 4, so he should be going to school in September, technically. And then I've got my little boy, my little baby, who's 10 months old. Yeah. So yeah, 3, and it's just a bit mad.
Yeah, I can imagine. Mine are like the similar differences, but that little bit older. But yeah, they still seem too young to go to school, even my oldest to be in year 3. So do you have 3 words that you can describe your home ed style with? You can expand on them or you can just list them. It's up to you.
Yeah, so I was thinking about this one a lot, and I was thinking, like 3 words is quite difficult to think, like, oh, just 3 words. So, I'd say like our style was like unschooling. So we don't do structured stuff really. We don't. It's all like child-led based. It's all. They often ask me for like a day, so they say like, oh, can we have like a knight's day or a pirate's day or something? So I kind of just do like fun activities based on that, but definitely unschooling. The next one is definitely just madness because it is just hectic and crazy and mad, like all the time, every day. Um, but my last one, I was thinking like, I'm not really sure, but it's definitely happy. That's my last one is happy. We are really, really happy. Like we love spending time together. We love being together. We love like we just yeah, we love all the family time and having fun and just yeah, it's great. It's good fun. So yeah, it's happy unschooling madness.
Love that. Yeah. Despite the madness, it's still happy. I really like that.
Yeah.
So we heard a little bit about a home ed kind of horror that happened. Do you have a highlight from the last couple of weeks that made you just think like, yep, we're on the right path. We're doing the right thing?
Yes, it's definitely this week. I reckon I've had a couple of those this week, but I love it when they. Sorry, my cat's like
Okay.
trying to claw at me. Um, I reckon my biggest thing is when you have those wobble days where you think like, oh God, like everything's gone wrong today, and I just like I'm not sure whether like this is the right thing that we're doing or like you just it's just all up in the air and you just feel like oh it's been a really hard day and we're all together all the time and it's like it's taking its toll. But then you have those days like this week, they've just been madly about dragons. So I was like, right, well, let's do some dragon stuff. So I got the Let's Explore Dragons from Amy at Fun Learning Resources, and then I got some Twinkl bits to go alongside it. And I love when you go on Twinkl and they have like these really random resources that just like, and you're like, I don't know why they put that on there, but this is a really good resource.
Yeah.
And the resource I found was the wanted posters for the
Oh
dragons.
yeah, I saw those on your profile. Yeah.
And like I just thought, oh well, these, you know, these would be a bit of fun. We'll print
Mhm.
those out. But they were like a massive source of inspiration for us. And we did like the best like hour or so where they made up stories and it was like role play and my oldest just sat there and he just wrote and wrote and wrote. And he hasn't written anything down, I don't
Yeah.
reckon, for like a couple of months. Like not really like sat there and focused writing. And he just wrote and wrote and wrote, and he asked me how to spell things, and he asked me like, oh, well, how, like, what are the letters in this one, and things like that. And I want to write poisonous, and I want to write this, and I said, usually, like, I'd go like, oh, I give them like the option. I say, like, do you want to write it, or do you want me to write it? And usually he's like, well, you write it down, and he'll tell me it. But yeah, he was like, absolutely not. He's like, I'm going to write it all, and it was brilliant. But it was just one of those days where I was like, oh, like even though we've done nothing in weeks, he still sat there and he still did it. And, you know, his letters aren't bad and, you know, it was really good. And it's just like, it fills you with confidence
Yeah.
that actually it is going in. And despite all the enriching hours that we do of other stuff, the learning of that type of stuff still happens alongside. And that was definitely my favorite thing
Yeah, and I think
recently.
it gives a lot of confidence to people like me where we're in the few months of not doing any writing and it hasn't quite clicked for
Yeah,
my oldest and he would prefer me to write it. And then I hear that and I'm like, I mean, I'm doing the right thing and knowing that it comes from them. I used to be a teacher and you would be making the kids write and like the fact that it's come from him to write about dragons, like I find that really encouraging and exciting.
yeah. And
So
that's
oh, sorry.
definitely my favorite thing, yeah.
Yeah.
That you have those moments, and even like seeing it on other people's when they say
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, we haven't read anything for ages," and they've blown my mind. I love sharing that with other people. That knowing that other people are having the same experiences as you
Yeah.
is really like it fills you with confidence. It is really good,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That's why I think it's so important to be honest on Instagram because there are a lot of
yeah,
posts where you're like, oh, no, we're not doing that. I haven't written a paragraph, or my kids haven't written a paragraph, and my house is a mess.
yeah,
And then when you see that little bit of reality, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be negative honesty. It's just encouraging, I think, really realistic. So yeah, I love that. Um, I'm going to skip. I have given you some questions. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. You can see, I think we're about halfway through. You mentioned about like those days where you have wobbles, and I have those. Sometimes it's like my life is one big wobble. But if someone, especially if they were new to home educating, was having those days and maybe worried that they were having those wobbles and the guilt or the worry that they're doing the wrong thing, what advice would you give them and how would you reassure them?
I think I think like anything with children is like a massive roller coaster. And it's always, you always get your ups and you always get your downs. And I think that people forget that even though they're children, that that's what life is like anyway. And that actually, like, my life is up and down. Like, I have days where I feel good and I want to do loads and I want to be really productive. And then I have days where I want to sit on the sofa and I want to watch telly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, accepting that the children are actually people too, and that they have those good days and they have those bad days. And, like, I think that's the one thing that I've really learned by being home with them is that everybody has good and bad days, and you have to kind of accept those bad days and let them kind of wash over you and kind of be like, right, well, today we're just accepting that we're going to do this because the more you try and fight it, the worse it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And like following their lead and understanding that, yeah, they're not going to be massively productive every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I think is the biggest thing. Like, it's just accepting it and just being like, yeah, okay, we're gonna have a really, really crap day today,
Yeah.
but not actually worrying about, well, maybe we can do it tomorrow, and then waking up the next day and being like, right, well, let's try and get everything done that we didn't do
Yeah.
yesterday. Just thinking, well, go with the flow, see how it goes. And actually, they can be really hard, but try not to be too hard on yourself and feeling like you're a failure as well.
Yeah.
Because I think if you think, well, what am I doing wrong? You know, they've woken up and they don't want to do anything that I've put out, and like they don't want to join in with me and they don't want to cook with me today, even though they wanted to cook with me yesterday. You feel like, oh, well, it's all my fault, like I'm a failure. But actually, they have real emotions just like we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that that's how I feel a lot of the time. I don't want to do it half the time. And I think that, yeah, when you force it, it just doesn't work. And I think that's one thing I've said to people before is if someone tried to make you do it, like how would you feel about it if you didn't want to do it?
Yeah, we
And
get that, don't we? Yeah.
that actually they're just people too that
Yeah.
have emotion, even though they're very small and they don't necessarily understand them all the time. But yeah,
that's really
just
helpful.
kind of accepting it, going with the flow.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of when you first start, like your first kid, and you're teaching them how to eat and so on, and yet, like I was a little bit like, well, have they tried this, and you're thinking so carefully about everything, but then you told them that you've got to look at the bigger picture, and like what they've eaten in a week and how their like attitude towards feeding. And we already know as parents how to do that, but then we panic when it comes to reading and writing and so on. That is really helpful, thank you. We've got time for one last question, I think. It's been Wellbeing Week in our home ed group. Do you do anything special to have a bit of self-care when you are having those tough days? What do you like to do?
Yeah, so this one's really difficult because if you'd asked me like a year ago, I'd have said I do yoga, I go running, I do like little meditates and things like that, like all of the classic things that people would say that are really good for your self-care. However, since having baby number 3, it's just no, like I can't do any of it. I don't get 5 minutes to myself. If I get him to sleep in the evening, he sleeps on top of me all night long, and I don't get any breathing space. And I really, really struggle with that. I get like that very, very claustrophobic feeling of the children have touched me all day long and I need some space. And I'm just like, sometimes like my husband will get home from work and I like throw the children at him and I'm like, I just don't want to be touched by anybody for like 5 minutes. I go upstairs and that's probably the one thing that we do is that we accept that everybody needs a break sometimes. And we often say, I'm going to take 5 minutes. And as like, no questions asked. If you need to take a 5-minute break, you take a 5-minute break. So we kind of just shut the door, shut everybody away, and take like 5 minutes to ourselves, whatever it is that we're doing. But yeah, no, I wish that I could do more, and I know that I should do more for myself. But it is hard. It's really hard to find the time. It's really hard to find the childcare. It's and stuff like that. But yeah. Yeah, I'm probably not the best for that one because I don't take.
I hope no one asks me that. Like, well, I eat custard creams and watch the TV, and then half an hour I have with no kids around.
I eat a lot of chocolate.
Yeah, the third one that definitely took away like any self-care time I had. I feel he's 3 now, and I just feel like I'm getting back to like, oh, I can be a bit more strategic about this. But time is up. So I'm gonna let you get back to your day. Thanks so much for joining with us. You're at let me see if I get it right, at Adventuring with the Little Bees. Is that right? Yes. I'll tag you in the description afterwards, and I'm sure you won't mind if people ask you any more follow-up questions through your profile or whatever. I'm sure you're happy to share more about the home ed life. But we've got a couple more people next week, so hopefully, I love this. I love learning all about different people. It's a lot more normal when I hear someone else talk about it. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I like it as well. I think that's like my favorite thing about Instagram is that it's like a proper like home ed village, isn't it? Like it's a really nice community and that networking and being able to talk to people. Like there are so many people and like friends that I've made through here that I just like, if you need support, this is one of the places that I come because there will always be somebody here to talk to. So it's good.
Yeah, I don't think I would be still happily home eding if it wasn't for Instagram and the community there. And I've learned a lot as well, just from other people sharing their views and so on. So it's good. Yeah,
it is. It's really good. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I will let you go now.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Next week. Bye.